Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11. Okay, we're getting ready for Barbarossa. I don't know if we're starting at this episode or not, because this is sort of going to be a special episode. So take it as that. If you're not interested, you want to just see the start of Barbarossa or something, you can skip this. But what we're going to look at is sort of the OOB. I get a lot of questions at different times. Is X enough divisions to attack France? Or is X enough divisions to attack Soviet Union? Or how many divisions do you need? I can't tell you. I have no idea of how many divisions I have. I guess the way my mind works, I don't think in those terms. I'm sure I could count them all up here. Need to get out pen and paper and, go through it all and figure it all out. And just, like I say, I could do it, but to me it is just not the way I'm an intuitive player. Do I feel that I have enough? Do I think that I have enough? And of course, the only way you know is if you're victorious. But so what I thought I would do here with this is we'll take a look at, and I've done this before, but we can see here. So we have a bunch of these rear area type, or some of these, including like the Königsberg garrison, which I've moved up to the border there. So only 2 divisions that are really properly offensive with that, which is almost a division there. Here we go. Much more. Those are transports that I swapped out for better units. So got that. Maybe a little weak from my feeling, because pushing up towards Leningrad. So a bunch more infantry divisions there. Few armored. And you guys can count. So we have some of the flat core, various units. Now here these guys are moving forward just now. A couple of Stug battalions, Abteilung, a bit more almost the divisions. Light infantry divisions moving in to deal with some of this here. Just moving up. Here, this is sort of the main push here. Again, a little weak. I am worried about this campaign, so I would say that for normal, this is a bit weak. Yeah. Let's see some panzer divisions here. Very weak here. This is just sort of hold the line. Don't be able to attack back here. Also fairly weak. Hey, some SA men. Very weak. A little stronger. We got 1 proper division now coming through here. This is maybe a little bigger than I intended compared to some of the others, but got a couple of mechanized, bunch of armor. Between these and these is we're gonna push up through here is the idea. Here, another infantry, couple of infantry corps. This is sort of a pain to take because it's fortified. Brest-Litovsk. So these guys are as much to come this way as anything else. Got some light infantry here. These are cavalry and tanks. Bunch more divisions, including some flak units, more light infantry. They're going to sort of help push into here and push along here. Now these guys here, quite a few units as you see them scrolling up and down. Very good. I feel comfortable about this, that this is going to be a combination of push here and push here. We have a bit of an advantage of 2 provinces deep along the Dniester here. Advance, so this won't be. Often got really hung up in here, in which I've caught 2 or 3 corps just sort of been delayed trying to kill this pocket by a long time that I could have much more profitably pushed in. So a lot of these guys here are going to also push this way. I'm going to use some of these this corps here to push in and around and take that. I'm seeing a very big stack there. Let's see, one captured armor, one light armor, two heavy armors there, along with everything else. Some Croatians, which don't have any, well, do have a little anti-tank, but not much, so they're not all that strong. So then we come over here, and we've got a bit more, some more light infantry. Getting some more tank units down here. As you can see, a bunch more panzers. And a few more panzers here. Meant to come up this way. Now, this is part of the hitting force. Von Manstein as the sort of regional commander for the Harris Group Caucasus. So these guys here are mostly going to be set up for an invasion. That's going to be their job, a naval invasion, seaborne. These guys here also set up here for naval invasion. Mostly infantry, a little bit of a mountain. Down here more, this is huge mountain. They're all enjoying Athens right now, climbing around the Acropolis and hanging out. Even though it does say urban, it is rather mountainy. Right around that area. They're all set to be used as initial naval invasions plus reinforcements into the Caucasus, all these mountains here. We may also be coming into the Crimea, cutting off lots of stuff like that. Now, what's hurting us on the Eastern Front, or missing, shall we say, on the Eastern Front, are a bunch of these armored divisions here. I'm hoping that by having them here at the right moment, whatever that term is, I'm not sure when, that will be, we are looking to push into the Soviet Union here. I've got most of the armor down here, and this is coming here. Hopefully avoiding the worst of the mountains. Probably have to come through some of this here, but coming up this way while these guys push in here a bit, and while the invasion forces from there. I want to keep Iran out of the war, partially because I think they get clobbered from over here, even this fairly weak front. And the British may start showing up if they go that route. So that is what this sort of looks like, and this may end up being a very short episode. That's fine. Oh, we also have here, which is sort of moving as fast as they can over the ice. Looks just two panzer divisions coming this way. Rest are mountain or light infantry. We also have a few more, which now that I'm thinking about this, one is there and two are there. And hopefully they're transporting four more mountain units. The Swiss SS, SS Division Nord, and 3rd Gebirgsjäger. We'll come down and try to pick up some of the light infantry troops. Hopefully we won't be too badly invaded. So, now, I've got most of these foreign armor types hanging out here, ready to deal with, hopefully effectively, any more scripted invasions. These guys are all stacking here, and they're going to lose their strength and organization as time goes by, as they starve in Spain. Good for them. That is a bug. Would have been devastating had that happened when there's a war. And right now I am very worried about this as being undermanned, but I need the shipping to get things east, because we're still moving some stuff east. Yeah, like these guys, like Flak Brigade, Field Herrenhalle, and Panzer Corps, or Panzer Group 8 Kleist. Don't know what all they're doing with that, because all of his units got separated out somewhere else. So that's what I'm looking at. Yeah, I could send, you know, a little bit of SS infantry, Fengel in here with some SS cavalry, but that isn't going to be a whole lot. These Bulgarian divisions, yeah, they'd help, but remember that they're sort of on the, you know, level of Bulgaria for effectiveness, not Germany, so they're not going to be that overly effective. So that's sort of what we're looking at. Of course, I have a save, and I'm going to keep this saved here. If this turns out to be a bloody disaster, well, I don't know. Whether we go back to the save and then postpone this until 43. And so, or what we do, wasn't worried about it way back when, but I'm really worried about that limitation thing to ICs. It's just too draconian, particularly in, well, to some degree in all the years. And if you look at who's one of the developers of continuing developers, oh my gods, he spells it out a bit more than just OMG. Tactics, and it's been a while since I've looked at his playthrough. He virtually abandons all of this here, and we're forced to, because of the invasions and such, to maintain stronger forces in the east, in the west. So he's able to concentrate his forces a lot more than we have been able to do so. So, you know, you sort, to some degree, you mod the way you play. And so, since by doing that, that's what he looks at. And so, I think we need to build up our strength more. Yeah, okay, so that's a look at the OOB, fairly short episode. Love to hear your comments, what you think, because I have, at the time of making this, I have no idea whether, I sort of kind of think that, let me go back to here, and this is sort of important, of course, one of the views is to see the terrain. I don't have a serious problem, I don't think, with what's going to be the initial attack. It just, can we keep the speed up with all of the pop-up scripted units? Now, the scripted units that the AI gets, I haven't looked at all the code, but I think the way that it works is that they have some IC penalties that have been thrown onto the Soviets. Who knows, maybe they've taken them off, I don't know. So the idea is if you looked at the Soviet Union at this time, or a year before this, really, you'll see a bunch of forces out, sort of forward deployed here. They could be offensive, but mostly sort of tripwire, but several layers of forces of significance fairly deep. And what that does for you is allows you to spot the incoming attacks and concentrate your forces to blunt them, and not all get pocketed on the front. And so the developers, Panzeroo and crew, realized this, that if you put all your forces right on the border, it's so easy to punch through them, because you just stack up sort of like, you know, here or something, and then you just concentrate all your forces, you know, right on this one province, get around here, cut them off, do similar here, cut them off, and then go in and they die. And there's no way to get around that. So they're trying to compensate for it. I would really love to play a human player. I'm having some technical difficulties as of finding this stuff. I mean, fighting to tear down right now I'm thinking it's my router, and I got to get in there and see if I can get through that. That's what's delayed that. I know announced it. I thought I was going to be able to do it. Django's been great helping me with the some testing to try to see if I can get Hearts of Iron 4 to do play multiplayer. Can't get Hearts of Iron 3. Still working on Log Me In Hamachi thing. There's something that's sort of blocking things, so I don't know. If there's any good Windows 10 and or router people out there who would want to help me over Discord or something to get Log Me In Hamachi working, I would love that. Because I really would love to play this against a human playing it. Obviously we're expanding this, and maybe this is a little bit of filler, but okay, yeah, put a tripwire force here, but then how would a human try to defend this? Would they come back here along the Volga River and come here to here, or come here and then try to use the swamp on one end and build a front there, and then from somewhere in here try to come down here, concentrate a lot of forces in these plains, and then try to hold the Buh River here. How would they do it? And then, especially if they've watched a few playthroughs, knowing our abilities to put in significantly more shipping than the Germans had, though the Germans did do some naval invasions, and they did have a whole naval mission to Romania, in which they brought in submarines and ships overland in pieces. Not, well, things that might qualify as a ship, but just barely. Torpedo boats, and things like that. And torpedo boats are both as in the motor torpedo boat, the small guys, and and I don't know sure whether Room's boat is a torpedo boat. I don't know. I think from reading some of my books, or sort of historical fiction, the Room's boat flotilla are sort of large, or other like the motor torpedo boats. But they're torpedo boats, from what I understand, and God, I'm not a naval expert, they're sort of what would be equivalent to a British corvette, sort of, or maybe a frigate almost. The torpedo boats, so that they're not boats; they're really small ships, corvettes. Canada had a huge navy during World War II, but it was mostly on corvettes and smaller ships dealing with anti-submarine warfare. And because sometimes when you have, it's more, as long as you have a fairly good, sonar and depth charges, more is better than fewer better vessels, because you're out hunting. If you have to hunt a submarine, you really should have at least 2 vessels. And so if you got a submarine out there, you want to go hunt it, you want to send 2 vessels to go do that, plus still protect the rest of the convoy as it tries to sail away, because of wolf packs. There's more out there. So, and you want to kill preferably, but at minimum sort of suppress the activities. So corvettes were really good. Now they were hell trying to be out in the North Atlantic, because it's a really rough sea with a really small boat. But so they did a lot of that. And so these are really sort of corvettes or frigates, I think. Sort of lightweight frigates, maybe biggish corvettes. Where these are the sort of motor torpedo boats, the famous type of stuff that later President Kennedy was on in the Pacific, that kind of thing. The U.S. had 3 different models. I'm not going to try to remember the names right now, but definitely bringing in some of the Schnellboote type, and maybe I think a few of the larger vessels in sections or pieces and whatnot, and assembled in Romania. So they had a definite Romanian Kriegsmarine mission to Romania, and as well as bring in some submarine components, I believe, as well, and operate in the Black Sea. Just as a sort of an aside, what I would have done, if at all possible, and I'm sure it's possible in the Black Sea, I don't know if it's possible in the Baltic Sea, purely on temperature of the water. I would have either gotten Italian frogmen and or had the German be trained up by the Italians, some good frogmen, and I would have, as getting ready for Barbarossa, tried to with submarines and aircraft, to try to do some. This is summer, so I don't know the Baltic in summer. Look at some of the ports, and especially at places like Odessa and Sevastopol. Try to do some frogman type missions, but go into the vessels and put the limpet mines, the magnetic mines, right onto the sides of the vessels, preferably here in some of the vessels in shallow harbor, and blow a bunch of holes in them to sink the ships. But try to just blow 2 or 3 holes in the sides of them, and so that they sink. But they're fine, because a vessel that sinks, especially someplace like Odessa, you can get to pretty quick. On some of these other ports, not so much important here, but I would really try to do as much as I could here in the Black Sea, to put them on the bottom of the harbor. Now, sometimes, like when you say the bottom of the harbor, you may be thinking, yeah, the vessel's underwater. No, like when the Italians sunk the British battleship here, yeah, it went down about 6-8 feet and sat on the bottom. So nobody knew. Outside of the ship, nobody knew that it had sunk. They were continuing to pretend that it was functional, so that the Italians were worried it was going to go out in any day. And so you can sink a ship, and it still can be above the water. But whether it's above or below the water, you can refloat these things, so that I would have tried to do that as a way of capturing naval vessels, floating them, cleaning them out, repairing them, putting them back into operation. Because even some old, out-of-date war vessels, especially in a place like the Black Sea, they can be very, very useful. Because you can bring in all of the Schnellboote and other sort of fast attack kind of vessels, but you're getting even pre-World War I vessels that, if you can get them and capture them, they may not be all that fast, but they have some fairly big guns on a bunch of their some will say Russian and some will say Soviet vessels. There's some fairly big guns that they're fairly good at shore bombardment, and you can put on modern anti-aircraft guns around them and protect them with, the Schnellboote with sonar on them to protect them from Soviet submarines or other similar sorts of operations. And so you have a fairly big, fairly strong vessel that, is vulnerable to torpedoes, but normal artillery shore battery fire is fairly well protected, because these are armored monsters, and that you could use them for coastal operations, invasions, and other sort of support, as well as escorting other merchant vessels that you've acquired, maybe by the similar means, or just simply brought in from various sources as unarmed merchant vessels, by putting a bunch of the anti-aircraft guns that help protect the vessels from air attacks, so that they would be very useful of getting some Soviet ships for use by the Germans. And I'd do it in the Baltic too, just for the fun of it, and to take them out, and maybe getting a few more ships, because we do see some of these guys, some on the Advance and some on, obviously 2 of these had already been scrapped, the Hanover and the Hessen. They were in 35, I think they were decided to be scrapped, because of course they were going to have a modern Kriegsmarine all built up and super powerful. But that didn't work out, so it would have been better to probably recondition those instead of scrapping them. But those are really good for, that they use them for shore bombardment. But okay, keep this from going too long. So those are some of my thoughts. We're getting ready. I should be next episode. Barbarossa really starts. See you then.